Welcome to our YouTube channel, The Alien Tales, and please ensure that you have subscribed.
She records our relationship in 30-second clips. I'm watching our love story in reverse. Her species experiences time in fragments. Every moment with me is archived, categorized, treasured. But she views them backward, from ending to beginning. The holographic display flickered to life, casting blue light across my tear-streaked face. Zylara's assistant, a crystalline being called Nexus, handed me the memory device with what I assumed was sympathy, though reading emotions on a face made of living diamond was challenging. "She wanted you to have this?" Nexus chimed, their voice like wind through crystal caves. Every moment, catalogued in 30-second intervals. 2 years, 3 months, 14 days of your relationship. I stared at the device no bigger than a coin. She's really gone? Her consciousness transferred to the eternal archive this morning. Standard procedure for Temporians reaching cognitive overflow. Nexus paused, their form shifting slightly. She left specific instructions. You're to watch chronologically from your perspective, beginning to end. My hands trembled, but she experienced it backward, from end to beginning, precisely why she wanted you to see it forward. She said, "What did she say?" Nexus accessed their databanks. Ah yes. Maybe if Gareth watches our love story properly, he'll understand why I fell in love with him in reverse. I almost smiled despite my grief. Even in death, Zylara was cryptically romantic. The first clip loaded, our initial meeting at the intergalactic cultural exchange. There I was, looking terrified and clutching a phrasebook, while a tall, ethereal woman with silver skin and eyes like swirling galaxies approached my booth selling authentic Earth snacks, which were mostly just different flavored chips. "This is going to hurt, isn't it?" I whispered. Nexus's form pulsed with what might have been agreement. She said the pain would be worth understanding. I pressed play, and my heart shattered as Zylara's voice filled the room. Fascinating. A being who experiences time linearly. "Tell me, Earth human, what is it like to know your future is uncertain?" The memory shifted to 6 months ago. I was kneeling in the Nebula Gardens, holding a ring I'd crafted from compressed starlight, a technique Zylara had taught me during one of our temporal theory dates. "Zylara, I know your people experience time differently," I said, my voice shaking with nervousness. "I know you've already seen how this ends, but I need to ask anyway." She stood before me, her silver skin shimmering with what I'd learned was amusement. "Oh, Gareth, you adorable little linear being. Is that a yes? I've been waiting for you to ask this question since the moment I first saw you." She knelt beside me, her galaxy eyes twinkling. "In my experience, this moment comes after you've already learned to make perfect pancakes, survived 3 of my mother's dinner parties, and figured out how to debug my temporal recording device." I slipped the ring onto her finger. "So we're engaged?" "We've been engaged for quite some time, darling. You're just catching up." She kissed me, and I tasted starlight and eternity. "Though I must say, your proposal technique improves significantly by the 3rd time." "3rd time? Oh yes, you're quite persistent when you put your mind to it." I stared at her. "You mean I proposed to you 3 times? Well, technically 4, but the first one doesn't count because you accidentally proposed to my sister instead." Similar silver skin, but her eyes are more purple than galactic blue. I groaned. "Why didn't you warn me?" "Because watching you panic about proposing to the wrong Temporian is the funniest thing in any timeline." The scene shifted to 8 months earlier. I was standing in Zylara's apartment, surrounded by what looked like a museum of temporal artifacts, trying not to touch anything that might accidentally create a paradox. "So let me get this straight," I said, examining a device that looked like a snow globe filled with miniature lightning. "You collect moments like other people collect stamps?" "Not collect. Archive." Zylara floated, literally floated, around the room, organizing her memory banks. Each 30-second clip is a complete sensory experience. Sight, sound, smell, emotion, probability calculations. Probability calculations? How else would I know which moments are worth preserving? She landed gracefully beside me. "For instance, This moment has a 73.2% chance of leading to you accidentally activating my temporal displacing device. I immediately stepped away from the snow globe thing. How do you know that? Because I've already experienced you doing it. In my timeline, this conversation happened after you spent 3 hours explaining Earth physics to my pet quantum fish. You have a pet quantum fish? You're going to overfeed him with Earth crackers next week. He'll split into 16 alternate versions of himself. I stared at her. Is that bad? Only if you're not prepared to name them all. She grinned, and for the first time, I saw genuine chaos in her eyes. I hope you're creative with names, because Fishy 1 through Fishy 16 lacks imagination. This is insane. Darling, you haven't seen insane yet. Wait until you meet my mother. She experiences time in loops. Every conversation with her is simultaneously the first and last time you'll ever speak. The memory jumped to our first major fight, 2 months into our relationship. I was pacing around my tiny Earth Standard apartment while Zylara sat perfectly still. Her silver skin dim with what I'd learned was frustration. You already know how this argument ends, don't you? I accused. Of course I do. Then why are we having it? Because you need to experience it linearly to understand the lesson. Her voice was patient but strained. I can't just tell you the conclusion, Gareth. You have to arrive at it yourself. I threw my hands up. This is impossible. How can I have a relationship with someone who's already lived through all our conversations? The same way you have a relationship with anyone else. One moment at a time. She stood, her form rippling with temporal energy. The only difference is I cherish each moment more because I know which ones are the last. That's terrifying. That's love. She approached me slowly. You think knowing the future makes everything easier? I've experienced our first kiss, our first fight, our first night together, and our last goodbye. I carry the weight of every ending, Gareth. I stopped pacing. Our last goodbye? Her skin flickered between silver and translucent. Every relationship has an ending. The question is whether the journey was worth the destination. And was it? She smiled sadly. Ask me in 30 seconds. The timer on her recording device chimed, and she pressed stop. Clip archived. Emotional weight, maximum. Probability of reconciliation, 94.7%. I stared at her. You're recording our fight? I record everything, remember? Even the painful parts are worth preserving. 6 weeks into our relationship, I was attempting to cook dinner while Zylara provided commentary from the future. The pasta is going to overcook, she said, not looking up from her temporal calculations. I just put it in the water. In approximately 4 minutes and 37 seconds, you'll be distracted by my explanation of how Temporians digest food, and you'll forget about the timer. I set my phone alarm. Problem solved. Now you'll be distracted by the alarm itself because you'll wonder why it sounds different from the one in your timeline. My timeline, the one where you successfully make edible pasta. She finally looked up, her galaxy eyes sparkling. Would you like me to explain how Temporians digest food now? Or would you prefer to maintain the illusion of culinary control? I stirred the pasta aggressively. Explain away. We don't technically. We absorb temporal energy from shared experiences. Food is more about the memory of taste than actual nutrition. So you don't need to eat? Need? No. Enjoy? Absolutely. She floated over to the stove. Though I should mention, in about 90 seconds, you're going to realize you forgot to add salt to the water. I grabbed the salt shaker immediately. Clever. Though now you'll add too much because you're overcompensating. This is ridiculous. How do you have a normal relationship when you already know everything that's going to happen? Who says I want normal? She grinned. Besides, knowing what happens and experiencing it are completely different things. I know you're going to burn the garlic bread, but I don't know how adorably flustered you'll look when you realize it. The smoke alarm chose that moment to start beeping. The memory shifted to our third date. I was nervously straightening my shirt outside a restaurant that existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously. A detail I was trying very hard not to think about. Relax, Zylara said, her silver skin glowing with what I'd learned was amusement. My parents already love you. How can they love me? We haven't met yet. We haven't met yet from your perspective. From theirs, You've been part of the family for subjective decades. She adjusted something on her temporal recording device. Though I should warn you, my father experiences time in loops, and my mother processes everything in reverse chronology. Reverse. She experiences the future of the past. It's complicated. We walked into the restaurant, which smelled like cinnamon and possibility. Two figures approached. One looked like Zylara but with skin that shifted between silver and gold, and the other appeared to be a walking constellation. Gareth! The constellation boomed. Wonderful to finally meet you for the first time again. Again! I whispered to Zylara. Dad experiences meeting you on a loop. This is simultaneously your first and 1000th introduction. The silver gold woman embraced me. Such a pleasure to meet the man who will have made our daughter so happy. She spoke in past future tense. I am Zylara, and this temporal confusion is my husband, Vortak. I'm sorry, what? Zylara laughed. I may have forgotten to mention that my parents named me after themselves. Zylara plus Vortak equals Lyrithak, which became Zylara through linguistic evolution. Your name is a portmanteau of your parents' names? All Temporian names are. Yours will be too, if... She paused, her eyes swirling with calculation. Well, that's a spoiler. My name will be what? Focus on the present, darling. My parents are waiting to interrogate you about your intentions regarding their daughter's past-future happiness. Vortak clapped me on the shoulder with a hand made of stardust. So, Gareth, tell us about your future plans with our daughter. 2 weeks into our relationship, I was sitting in Zylara's living room, surrounded by floating holographic displays showing what appeared to be our entire relationship timeline. So let me understand this, I said, pointing at a glowing node. You experience our relationship from end to beginning? Correct. Zylara manipulated the display with graceful hand gestures. I first experienced our goodbye, then worked backward through every shared moment until I reached our initial meeting. But you acted surprised when we first met. I was surprised. Meeting someone for the first time when you've already lived through their goodbye is complex. She highlighted a series of clips. These are my favorites. Notice how they're all moments when you're completely confused by temporal mechanics. I watched a clip of myself trying to understand her explanation of nonlinear time. My face scrunched in concentration. You think my confusion is entertaining? I think your confusion is adorable. Most species that encounter Temporians either fear us or try to exploit our temporal abilities. You just accept the chaos. I don't have much choice, do I? You always have a choice, Gareth. In fact, you have several upcoming choices that will determine the trajectory of our relationship. She zoomed in on a cluster of clips. Week 7. You'll have to decide whether to introduce me to your family. Week 12. We'll face our first major conflict over temporal ethics. Week 18. Stop! I held up my hand. Don't tell me what's going to happen. Can't some things be a surprise? Everything is a surprise when you experience it linearly. She smiled. But I can archive the moment you asked me to stop spoiling your own future. It's quite sweet, actually. You're recording this conversation? I record everything. Every 30 seconds, archived with full sensory data and emotional resonance. She showed me a device that looked like a crystalline flower. This is how I remember properly. How I can love you in reverse. That's either the most romantic or most terrifying thing I've ever heard. Why not both? The memory shifted to our second date. We were walking through the temporal gardens, where flowers bloomed in fast forward while trees grew in reverse, their leaves falling upward to become buds. This place is beautiful, I said, trying not to stare at a butterfly that was flying backward through its own life cycle. I thought you'd appreciate the temporal paradoxes, Zylara said. Though I should warn you, in about 3 minutes, you're going to try to catch one of those reverse butterflies. I am. You'll think it's stuck in a loop. You'll want to help it. She paused by a bench that was simultaneously new and ancient. You'll also kiss me for the first time in approximately 4 minutes and 17 seconds. I stopped walking. You're going to spoil our first kiss? I'm not spoiling it. I'm providing context. Her silver skin shimmered with what I was beginning to recognize as mischief. You're going to be very nervous. You'll apologize 3 times before actually doing it. That's mortifying. It's endearing. And for the record, the kiss is quite nice. You taste like possibilities and that earth beverage you're always consuming. Hot chocolate, that's the one. She sat on the temporal bench, patting the spot beside her. Though I should mention, you're about to ask me if I've experienced this kiss before. I sat down exactly as she predicted. Have you? Of course. I've experienced all our kisses. Our first, our last, and everyone in between. She turned to face me, her galaxy eyes serious. But experiencing something temporally and living it in the moment are different things. I know the mechanics of our first kiss, but I don't know how it will feel to experience it with you experiencing it for the first time. That's actually kind of sweet. I'm told I have my moments. She leaned closer. Though you're supposed to catch that butterfly first. I looked around and spotted a butterfly that was definitely stuck in some kind of temporal loop. Without thinking, I reached out to help it. Every time, Zylara murmured, and then my lips were on hers, and she tasted like starlight and forever. The scene jumped to our second encounter, 3 days after the cultural exchange. I was sitting in an interdimensional cafe, nervously stirring my coffee and checking my phone every 30 seconds. You're early, Zylara said, materializing beside my table in that unsettling way Temporians moved through space. I wanted to make a good impression, I admitted. Though I guess you already know whether I succeed. Success is relative when you're dealing with temporal mechanics. She settled into her chair, her silver form shifting to accommodate the dimensional physics of the cafe. For instance, you're going to spill your coffee in approximately 2 minutes, but it will lead to a conversation about human embarrassment rituals that I find fascinating. Can't you just warn me not to spill it? Where's the fun in that? She gestured and a server approached, a being that looked like a friendly cloud with too many eyes. Besides, you spilling coffee is directly responsible for 73% of our relationship milestones. That's impossible, is it? Your coffee stain will inspire my research into human emotional responses to minor disasters. That research will lead to my understanding of why humans find shared vulnerability attractive. That understanding will influence how I approach romantic relationships with linear beings. I stared at her. You're going to study me? I'm going to study with you, she corrected. There's a difference. Though I should mention, you're about to knock over your coffee while gesturing emphatically about the ethics of temporal observation. I am not going to, I gestured. My elbow connected with my mug, and coffee splashed across the table. Every time, Zylara said, but she was smiling. Your indignation is remarkably consistent across all timelines. All timelines? Oh yes, I've observed 17 different versions of this conversation. In one, you order tea instead of coffee. In another, you're 10 minutes late because you stopped to help a lost tourist. But in every single timeline, you knock over your beverage while protesting my methods. That's oddly comforting. Consistency is the foundation of good temporal research. She helped me clean up the spill. Though I should mention, in Timeline 7, you ask if I'd like to study human dating customs firsthand. And do you? I thought you'd never ask. The final memory brought me back to where it all began. The intergalactic cultural exchange, 2 years ago. I watched my past self fumbling with the display of Earth snacks, looking completely overwhelmed by the alien technology surrounding me. Welcome to the cultural exchange, Earth human, Zylara said, approaching my booth with fluid grace. I am Zylara of the Temporian Collective. I understand you're here to share artifacts from your world. Past me looked up nervously. Oh, yes, hi. I'm Gareth. I brought, these are called potato chips? They're food. Fascinating. Zylara picked up a bag, studying it with intense curiosity. And these represent Earth's culinary culture? Well, not exactly. They're more like comfort food? Snacks. I watched myself grow increasingly flustered. I may have misunderstood the assignment. Comfort food, Zylara repeated, as if tasting the words. Food that provides emotional satisfaction beyond nutritional value. How wonderfully inefficient. That's one way to put it. Tell me, Gareth of Earth, do you experience comfort in other inefficient ways? Past me paused, considering this. I guess I watch movies I've seen before. I read books that make me cry. I listen to sad songs when I'm already sad. You deliberately seek experiences that provide no practical benefit. Sometimes the best experiences are the ones that don't make sense. Zylara's eyes widened, her silver skin rippling with what I now knew was profound interest. That is the most beautiful thing I have ever heard. Really, really. She activated her recording device for the first time. Tell me more about beautiful inefficiency. I watched past me light up, finally finding his footing. Well, there's this thing humans do called watching sunsets. The sun sets every day, exactly the same way, but we act like each one is special. As the memory faded, I realized I was crying, not just from sadness, but from understanding. Zylara had fallen in love with me backward, but she'd fallen in love with my humanity forward. Starting with that first moment when I described the beautiful inefficiency of being human. She'd recorded our entire relationship in 30-second clips because she understood something I was only now learning. Even when you know how a story ends, living it moment by moment is what makes it worth experiencing. I looked at Nexus, who had been waiting patiently throughout my viewing. She really loved me, didn't she? She loved you in every timeline, Gareth. Past, present, and future. That's why she wanted you to see it properly. So you'd understand that some love stories are worth experiencing in any direction. I held the memory device close to my heart, feeling the weight of every archived moment. What do I do now? What humans always do, Nexus said, their crystalline form glowing warmly. You keep moving forward, one beautiful, inefficient moment at a time. And for the first time since losing her, I smiled. Because I finally understood what Zylara had known all along. The ending doesn't diminish the story. It gives it meaning.